truth, and life. Here is the Brother Leon Show. You better recognize.
What's going on, listeners? I know y'all digging out today, but I just want to welcome you to the Brother Leon Show today. So, hey, like I put up on Instagram just a few minutes ago, there is heat in the shovel. If you got some sons, send them out there. But if you got to shovel yourself, take your time. Don't mess up your back. But there is heat in the shovel. So let's go on in here. The one thing that I want you guys to understand and know today is that we have to talk about kingdom. And I'm not talking about kingdom from a Christian perspective, because we got that in church. But the one thing that I want you guys to understand and know is that we have the ability to call ourselves kings and queens. But a lot of times we don't look at the burden that is involved. We don't look at the burden that is involved in ruling and running a kingdom. Because you have to ask yourself, what type of authoritarian will I be? What type of king will I be? What type of person and man will I be? And so, hey, I want to divert your attention back to Black Panther. Because a lot of times you have to see the burden that goes with the crown. And in Black Panther, he said, you are a good man. It's hard for a good man to be king. Because sometimes as a good man, you try to please everybody, and everybody is not going to be pleased in a kingdom. We see that with the presidents. We see that with the presidency of Barack Obama. Everybody was not happy with him, even though he came with a good message. Change, hope. Those were good things. But I'm going to tell you, man, everybody has a good plan until they get hit in the gut. And so the one thing that I want you guys to understand and know, that as a man, you control the part of the relationship dynamic. You control whether or not you get married. You control the relationship, whether or not you allow that woman to be in your life. Women, you control the sexual dynamic. You got the car keys, and the gas for the sexual experience. Men control the relationship experience. And so the one thing that we have to realize is that there is a burden that comes with wearing the crowns. And I say crowns plural. The crown of the queen and the crown of the king. So I'm going to tell you, king, you just can't have any old body in your life. And that's the God knows truth. Queen, you just can't have any old body in your life. And that's the God knows truth. There's a burden with it. Because you got to look at vision. You got to look at how we're going to run this kingdom together. And so today, myself and Alasha Bennett, we're going to talk about kingdom and various other topics. So guys, stay tuned. This is going to be fire and thunder in the snow. Guys, we have coming to the stage Miss Alasha Bennett. Let me get some applause for her, because she is going to bring the thunder today, and that's the God knows truth. All right, Miss Bennett, I love you. That's the God knows truth. I love when you come on this stage. I love when you grace the mic, because you come with some sound wisdom and you challenge people for today. So I appreciate you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy to be here. You know, when we get together, we always cut a fool and we have a good time. But we also, make sure we teach and bless everybody with the opportunity to learn and to grow. So I'm all here. I'm for it.
All right. You got that. You definitely got that. So, hey.
Let's get in it. Let's talk about it.
All right. So I think the one thing that I'm curious about is that we call each other kings. We call each other queens, but I think a lot of times we don't understand what it takes to rule a kingdom, the vision that it takes, the strength. that is behind the crown, the burden that is behind the crown, because we have to look at the crown not only as a burden, but it's also a mantle. It's a mantle that can be passed down generationally. So I'd like to get your perspective on that, if you don't mind.
So when you're talking about, kingdom and being a king and a queen in relationships, on my Facebook page, I posted the other day about this very thing, where I was saying that if you're dating, but you have, really no clue or no understanding of what type of empire or kingdom that you're trying to build, and then what type of person you need in order to help you build that kingdom, then are you really ready for marriage? Because it has been proven that love is not enough to sustain a relationship. And truly it is not. So, we can get into the different aspects of a marriage, but when you're talking about marriage, if we could be real about it, marriage is a financial contract. So I'm not talking about the relationship part of it. I'm talking about the marriage part of it, right? Marriage, if we can all agree that marriage is a contract.
Yeah.
However, there is the relationship or the intimacy part of that marriage, just like you have the spiritual part of that marriage. And a lot of people get that mixed up. And so when we don't separate those things and put them in their proper place, then we're not understanding why we're actually trying to be in a relationship.
Yeah, you're right about that, because I think a lot of times we get wires crossed. We run off of assumption. We feel as though that love alone, feelings alone. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day,
and it's just,
it takes more than that. It takes more than that to have sustainability. Because I ain't
right. So, sorry, go ahead.
No. What I'm saying is, we can have like a 2-year run. We can have a 4-year run just based off of emotion alone. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it takes tenacity. It takes resilience. It also takes knowing that relationships go through seasonal changes. Just like, when it comes to kingdoms go through changes, seasonal changes at times.
And I always ask, I ask people, why do they want to be in a relationship? And it's so funny to me, because when they say, oh, I just want someone to love, or I want someone to love me, I know that person is not ready to be in a relationship, because emotion into a relationship strictly on emotion is going to cause that relationship to fail. And it may not fail today. It may not fail in 3 weeks. But it's eventually going to fail, because there's no goal. Where is it that you're trying to go with that person? What is it even that you're trying to gain personally as far as your development?
Yeah.
What are you trying to actually do? Right?
Exactly.
A lot of people don't understand that you have to have those things in your mind. So when you're dating someone and you're asking them, hey, what's your life purpose? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? All of those questions, you're asking those questions to see if they're in line with where you're trying to go.
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is that, like the Bible says, without a vision, the people perish, or they throw off all restraints. Because it's like there's no goal. So it's almost like, instead of us being a sniper, hitting the goal, hitting the target, we're just, happy just to be a shotgun. We hitting whatever. But after a while, you get tired of having a shotgun and you want to have the sniper rifle, where you can just hit a specific goal from far away. The shotgun versus the sniper rifle is this. You have to be close range with a shotgun. Sniper rifle, you can be 100 yards. You can be 200 yards. You can be 300 yards, depending on the scope. And what I mean by scope is scope of vision. And if you have that scope of vision, then you can hit the target, or you can get close. But with a shotgun, you just lucky. That's it.
Well, you want to have both, right? You want to be able to have your long-term goals and your short-term goals.
Yeah.
So what Bay and I do is we actually have those meetings. We have quarterly meetings, but we also have weekly meetings on the different goals that we're trying to reach. And that's within our relationship. So, there's 4 quarters in a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is it quarterly that we're trying to achieve in our relationship as far as the marriage is concerned? And we're talking about the financials of the relationship. What are we trying to achieve spiritually within the relationship?
Yes.
And what are we trying to achieve, maybe physically within the relationship? So it's the 3 parts of the relationship. So you have the marriage, you have the relationship, and you have the spiritual component. There are 3 pieces to this that people, they don't understand and don't get. And that's what breaks the relationship up, or there's no goal, there's no future in it. So when you're talking about a sniper rifle and a shotgun, you're close range and you're far away. You have to have those far away goals, right?
Yeah.
I can see that on the horizon. But then you're working every day in order to reach those goals. And if you don't sit down and you don't talk about those things, that's why premarital counseling is so important. Yeah. And a lot of people miss that step, or they go to a premarital coach or counselor that doesn't give them the tools to be successful.
Exactly.
Because honestly, if you're inside of a premarital coaching program, or you're going to somebody about that and they're not giving you the tools to communicate properly, they're not giving you the tools to put your finances together as a team, they should be teaching you how to function on a team level. If you're going to become one, you have to think as one.
Yeah.
If you have a blended family, you're all coming together as one. You have to change how you're thinking in a single person's mindset and say, okay, no, we have to put our financials together. We have to, figure out our goals and where we're going together.
Exactly.
Right? You have your individual goals as a person. Oh, I want to lose 10 pounds. Oh, I want to, but then you have to have goals as a couple.
Exactly.
Where are we trying to go financially? Where are we trying to, what are we trying to see our kids doing? Those types of things. If you're not taking the time to iron those things out, and I mean really iron them out, sit down, have a meeting, writing things out, writing your SMART goals for your relationship, right? We all know about SMART goals. Yeah. Actually writing down those goals. If you're not doing that, then what are you doing? How do you know you're improving in the relationship?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you know what you need to work on in the relationship?
Exactly. And that is definitely a part of the kingdom. When you talk about the spirituality of the kingdom, the religious system, the system of money in the kingdom, the system of physical growth in the kingdom. You know what I mean? And so those are the aspects that we have to definitely look at, even in a marriage, because like you said, there's a whole lot of variables that come with a blended family versus you building a family. You know what I mean? Because you have past experience, you have, traditions that were in that blended family, and then you guys, that family before you became a blended family. So you have to ask yourself, okay, what are we going to take on? What are we going to add? And then the patience that it's going to take, and the consistency that it's going to take, and the work that it's going to take to make that blend successful. Because the crazy thing, I love the fact that you mentioned blended families, because that's where we are right now. A whole lot of people are coming together with blended families. And, a lot of times those blended families end up breaking apart because we don't know just the variable or the dynamics or the work that it takes to make that transition successful, and making sure that it's able to be resilient, through the seasons of life, through the changes. Because with that,
right, and even when you're talking about blended family as far as your in-laws, right?
Yeah,
you're you're adding a whole new family dynamic into your family.
Yeah.
Right? So that goes for those in-laws as well. What family am I marrying into?
Yeah.
If you're talking about a kingdom, you have to be mindful of that.
Yes.
The family that you're actually marrying into.
Exactly. So you have like the old king, the old queen, and the new queen, and the new king. Or I would dare to say prince, if I could say that.
But even when you are combining kingdoms, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You still have to understand that kingdom comes with everything that it comes with, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. Like,
So,
I give you an example.
You able to understand that.
I give you an example. Well, we always did this at my mom's house. Well, we're doing something different this year. You know what I mean? Or I think one of the arguments that may come is, we're so used to, okay, this person cooks every year for the holidays versus the other person, oh, no, we just going to go visit. And so what if you tell the person that just wants to go visit, hey, I need for you to cook this year? Cooking? Cook what? No, we go visit. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
And it's a whole turnaround, right?
And it's a whole turnaround.
Story.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, what do we do? Because this person...
and just different dynamics. Even, you're talking about a family that, has a lot of drama going on with it versus a family that's real low-key.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So you really have to know. Right. So you really have to know the family that you're dealing with, the in-laws that you're going to be coming into. But you said something earlier that was very key before we even came onto the show about the job of the king and the job of the queen.
Yeah.
So, talk about that a little bit, because I think we should get into that and people understanding that there are jobs associated with, because a lot of people say, I want to be the queen, of the house, or I'm the queen of this castle, or whatever the case may be, but they're not understanding what all comes with that.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely explain it. I'm not going to lie. I will probably have some people angry at me at this point because of what I'm getting ready to say. And, we can hash it out and everything like that. But I think the one thing that we have to look at is that when you look at the king is a person who has rulership of a kingdom. And so a lot of times, women may come and say, hey, I want to be the queen. I want to be this. I want to be that. But she may not have what it takes to be by that man's side. She may not have what it takes to be the queen. She may have what it takes to be a concubine, but she may not understand the burden that comes with wearing a crown. She may not understand the vision that comes with it. And you also have to understand that there's a tenacity and a strength that comes with that crown, because the crown is not only rulership, but it's also a mantle. With that mantle comes a burden, and a lot of times people are not ready for the burden, because the one thing about kings is that they have versatility. They may not be the best fighter, but they know how to fight. They may not be the best, bishop, but they know diplomacy. They know religious law to a certain degree. And so the one thing about a king is that you got to wear many hats at times. And you also have to have discernment that comes with it. And a lot of times women want to be able to be in a king's life, but she also have to know the burden that comes with it. Are you willing to protect his focus? Because that's the one thing about a king. A king is a visionary. And if you as a woman or as a queen cannot protect the king's focus, then he may be focused over here. And the next thing you know, here comes an attack and he's caught off guard. But as a queen, you're supposed to make sure that you see the stuff that he don't see. And then you offer your counsel. You never disrespect the king, especially in front of his court. Because disrespect the king in front of his court, then that just lets everybody else know, hey, if the queen can do it, then we can do it. So what I mean by that is, if you have kids, I'm getting ready to go here. If you have kids, don't let them kids disrespect the visionary of the house. You correct them kids. And while we at it, if you are the type of person, if you're the type of woman that has sons, your sons are going to be kings one day. So don't kill the prince, because if you kill the prince, you have assassinated the king. And what I mean by that is, don't emasculate him. Don't emasculate him because you're mad at the king or you mad at his father. Just like your father, don't take away his manhood. But you grow him. You nurture him. You put him around other young men, other wise men that can give him good counsel so that he can be groomed to be the man that he is supposed to be. But what I see right now is I see a lot of, I can't say all, but I do see some women who are angry, and they take that anger out on their sons and they emasculate them, and then they wonder why he is not successful and can't have sustainability when it comes to relationships. And that's just my perspective. So if you want to comment on that, Alasha, I done said a lot. I know a lot of people might get mad at some of the things that I've said, even agree with some of the things that I said, but it's a lot that comes with it.
I mean, I don't see anything that you said that is off the wall. There are, the only thing that I would say is that, yes, a king has many hats. And I think that a man can be a king. Every man can be a king of his kingdom.
Yeah.
Right?
Like you said, yeah, everybody can be a king. Everybody can be a queen. But if there are certain types of kings that you want to get with, you're going to have to get on that page. Seriously. You can create any type of kingdom. But is that
right? And that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
you can be a king of your own kingdom. It just depends on how you're setting up that kingdom. Now, of course, there's some kind of foundational principles of building a kingdom, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, it's, whatever kingdom that you're trying to build, you have to make sure that that queen understands the kingdom that you're trying to build, and that she can support you in that.
Exactly.
And so when you're talking about the job of a queen, like you said, she's supposed to be supportive. She's supposed to be encouraging. She's supposed to hit blind spots. She should be able to say, hey, you got a blind spot right there. I'm just trying to let you know what's happening over here, what you can't see and what I can see, because you were out there fighting the war, right?
Yeah.
You out there fighting the war, and I was back here at home, and I can see what you can't see. And so when you come back home, I'm letting you know all of the things that are going on that maybe you need to pay attention to. Now, do I have, the control to do some of these things? Of course I do, right? When the king is away, I got to be the queen, right?
Exactly.
I have to be the one that's going to keep the kingdom in line, but in not overstepping that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm all about a team mentality. I'm all about we can do this together, but also understanding that everybody has to agree on what role they're going to play.
Yeah.
And that does not mean, if we take it into modern times and we say, well, the woman is supposed to stay home and and the man is supposed to go out and work and those types of things. That may not be how your kingdom is set up.
No, it's not.
The man might stay home and take care of the kids, and the woman might go out and work. If that's how your kingdom is set up, that's how it's set up. But how are each of you going to support that?
Exactly. And that's where we mess up at, because we feel as though that the kingdom needs to be X, Y, Z. It's supposed to be this cookie cutter right here. And a lot of times people don't know how to take it when it's not. And some people feel as though, well, because it's not like so-and-so's kingdom, I got something that's messed up. I'm like, no, you got a good kingdom. You got a good queen. You got a good king. That your kingdom does not have to be like, Bob and Shelley and them's. I'm serious.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
right. You have to understand what type of kingdom you're trying to build. Yes. And that's why I said, what are the goals?
Yeah, what are the goals?
And each person should be coming to the table, here we go again with that question, what do you bring to the table?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And right now, that's a hot topic,
It is.
that question being asked, because at this point, I'm not going to say this to every man, because every man doesn't understand, what the shift that's happening here. And there is a shift that's happening. So if you're single and you're in this dating world and you're like, I don't know what's going on, there's a shift happening.
I'm glad you said
and
that.
you have to be able to see it for what it is.
Yeah.
So now we have men who are being encouraged and empowered, right, to not go with the status quo of how relationships are formed, how relationships are conducted. They are changing the way that they date,
yeah,
which they should. I always get I get the bad end of the stick saying that I'm a pick me because I'm advocating for these men to date in a different way. But when you're coming,
I'm serious. I hate that.
I mean, it is what it is. I'll take it. I'll honestly take it because we're in a spot where women are, and I'll say this, women want to be liberated, right? Women don't want to be in this cage that they've been in for so long, right?
Yeah.
This is the issue. The men say, okay, we gonna come out the cage, right? We're gonna let you out the cage. Come on, let's go. And then women will go, oh, I don't like that, or I don't want to do that. And they'll run back in the cage. So they want to be able to have they want to be able to run in the cage when they don't want to do something or don't feel like that should be equal. And men are saying, well, no, if you want to be equal, be equal.
Yeah,
but women
exactly.
but women are having a problem with that. Like, what's good for the goose gotta be good for the gander.
Exactly.
If you want to do man things and be in a man's world, we're going to treat you that way.
Exactly.
But you can't keep running back in the cage whenever whenever you don't want to do something. And it's so sad. I was looking at, because I see it every day on my post, but I was looking at a video, it was shared with me the other day about, and I have nothing against the LGBT, TQ community. You are who you are and you do what you do. But this is a prime example of what I'm talking about. So the young lady, I think she's a YouTuber, but she's a stud, right? She dresses like a man, but she is a woman. And so she was going to a club and she had women on her arm and she was playing the role of the guy, right? In that situation. So we'll say that as the equal, right? So the women get let in and she was told, oh, no, because the women were free. The men had to pay $100 to get in. So they were like, oh, no, you got to pay $100. And she was like, but no, I'm a woman. And they're like, but you dress like a man. So she then wanted to be able to, in this scenario, come back into the cage, right?
Yeah.
And act as a woman and be delicate so that she can benefit from that situation.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what women are doing.
Yeah, I definitely see that. It's the same thing when you have white people in the LGBTQ community who benefit from their whiteness, who even they may be lesbians. They benefit from their whiteness as well as their womanness as well. So I totally get that. They, it's one of those type of things like, yo, I want to use it, but I'm like, come on. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You need to have some money on point if you want to get in this club, because your lady just went in for free. Of course, all the eye candy gonna go in for free, but you should have known from the door that You dressing like that, they going to think you a man, so you better have some money. Because they ain't going to let you in.
And like I said, there's like I said, there's nothing against the community.
Nah, nothing. But that was just on
it's the example. So now you're wanting to act like a man, but then when you're treated like a man, you're saying, "Oh no, but I'm a woman." So you want to be able to switch it on and off when it benefits you.
You can't do that.
And that doesn't work.
No,
that
doesn't.
Confuses men. It confuses men. Number one, they don't know how to act. And so, yeah, I get called to pick me a lot. Hey, with that.
Yeah, but see, the crazy thing is that I like your philosophy, like I like the Crimson Cure's philosophy, like I am Shalakemia. I like her philosophy, because the one thing that you're bringing accountability. You're bringing accountability to a toxic sisterhood. You know what I mean? And that's the one thing that really grieves me, because it's like you have some of these women, black men don't protect us. But y'all the ones that saying y'all boss and y'all don't need us. So if you don't need us, why are you talking about we don't protect you? But you saying you don't need us. So if you don't need us, why are you saying they don't protect us? Or you say that, white men will protect us. Now you call yourself divesting from blacks altogether. The black community, the black man. I'm like, no other community does this for us. And the crazy thing about and the crazy thing about all of this is that it gets indoctrinated into us, and then we give it to our daughters, and then we take and give it to our sons, and then the stats keep rising. Broken relationships, we creating all these kids, and they don't have the sustainability that they need. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely a cycle, and a vicious cycle that we have to break. And that's why, as a relationship coach, I'm not saying that other communities cannot benefit from the relationship advice that I give. However, my relationship advice really is geared toward Black people. Yeah. And the reason why that is because we're the ones that are behind on the curve when it comes to marriage and what it means to be in a marriage and to have a successful relationship, an intimate relationship, because of the things that, we've gone through in the past. And, a lot of times people say, don't bring that up. You're still bringing that up. But we have to remember that it's only been about, 50 or 60 years that schools were integrated. Yeah. 50, 60 years ago, Black people were being hosed and the dogs were being thrown on us. Yeah. My mother can remember my mother's 71. She can remember watching Ruby Bridges. You know what I'm saying? So we can't just say, this is so far removed from us that we should not take into consideration that this is why we're like this. Yeah. But what we must realize and understand is that we can't stay there.
Exactly.
So now when you have somebody that is giving you the tools in order for you to be successful, it would be a great thing for you to take heed and say, okay, if I want to change this generationally, I have to start with me. Exactly. And how do I do that? Okay, these are the foundational things that I need to learn about marriage, relationships, what they're for, and can change that. But you're saying some really great things about relationships and how to conduct them and how we should view them. And then going back to that point of this is why it's so important that you understand what type of empire or kingdom that you're trying to build. And both people should be on that wavelength. So if you come to the table, if we're on a date and you ask me, okay, so, what do you bring to the table? I want people to stop getting upset about that question because it's actually a valid question.
Oh, it is.
It is a very valid question.
Oh, that's a hot topic too.
It is a very hot topic, but what I want people to be able to understand about that and what that person is saying or what they should be saying, right? They can say that. Oh, hey, what do you bring to the table? What's the table? So there's a confusion about what the table actually is. The table is the relationship. So when you say, what do you bring to the table, you're asking, what can you bring in order to build the relationship?
I got to stop you right there. I want to ask you something because I've heard this. What if a person says, I am the table? What does that mean?
Then that sounds ridiculous, doesn't it?
It does.
After I just explained to you what the table is,
yeah,
that sounds ridiculous. You can't be, not one person can be the relationship. And you can't bring the relationship and then it sounds silly.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about, okay, what can you bring to the relationship so that the relationship will be healthy, right? So if somebody asks you that question, your response should be, well, what do you need? And if that person cannot answer, okay, well, I need a person who is consistent. I need a person who has these types of qualities and characteristics and who is looking to do this. If they can't tell you that, then there's no reason for them to ask the question.
Exactly.
Because they have no clue.
Yeah, exactly. Can I ask you this? And remember, I remember you posted this on Facebook and everything, and you were talking about parts of the table, and I was like, okay, well, look like this person going to be bringing legs and look like we, and I think I said in the post, I guess it looked like we going to Lowe's.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was crazy because you talked about parts of the table and everything like that, because I believe that everybody plays their part. I believe that everybody does have a part when it comes to putting this table together. So it's almost like, okay, if we're going to be putting this table together, we got to make sure that we measure the same. Or even if we do measure off, just make sure that the communication style, make sure that it agrees, because we don't want it lopsided. So, hey, if I'm bringing the saw, you got the level. You know what I mean?
Right. You definitely don't want to build a lopsided table.
Exactly.
So you're saying something great here, because, and I like how on that post you were like, I guess we're going to, we need to go to Lowe's.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, we need to go to Lowe's. Not I need to go to Lowe's by myself, pick out everything I want, and then I'm presenting it to you, right?
Yeah.
We're building this relationship together.
Yes.
So what are the things that each one of us needs in order for this relationship to be successful? And so during the dating process, there's 4 different types of dates that you should go on. And one of those dates is figuring out how we can work together, right? And so, for example, Bay and I went to, you go into this room and you got to figure out everything in the room to
you got
to get to the goal.
Okay.
Right?
Like, yeah. Oh, that's fun. I know that was fun.
And it's so funny because we had never done anything like that before, right? But we were in that stage in our relationship where, yes, let's figure out how we can work together, right? Oh, the escape room. That's it. Came to mind. So we go into this escape room, and even afterwards, after we were in the escape room, we talked about how each other's style, how we do things, how we figure things out, and how we work together, what we liked, what we didn't like, those types of things. And it was a good thing that we actually could work together, right? But that's what you're trying to figure out. So we went in and, one person is reading, the other person is, this goes together and that goes together. But it took us about maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes to figure out how we fit together in order to make it work. so that we could figure out the goal and to come to the conclusion. It took us about 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, she likes to do that. She's over there. Okay, got it. Let me be the helper on this part. Or, it was just going through the motions of how well do we work together and what is our style? And do our styles fit together in order to accomplish a goal?
Yeah.
And it's important for couples to do that.
It is.
Another thing that they can do that, I tell couples to do is go on a rowboat or go on a paddle boat. That's an activity that you can do. Number one, those things are hard to do. So I took some singles out one time and we coupled up. It was a bunch of singles. We coupled up. We got our paddle boats. Some of them had rowboats. And we went out on the water. And some of the people went in circles. They couldn't figure out how to get. Some of them made it to the other side and back. There was a couple that didn't even leave the dock.
How?
Like, she didn't, because she was afraid to actually get in the boat. Okay. Because she thought that when she got in the boat, it was going to turn over.
Wow. Okay.
So they never ever got in the boat, and he was mad, right? Yeah. He was mad because he was like, "I want to get in the boat. I want to enjoy the." Right, but they couldn't work together because of her fear. And sometimes, a lot of times, we partner with the wrong person, right? And especially thinking that we can cure their fear, right? Yeah. And that person has to work on that thing themselves. So she learned something about herself today. That day he learned something, but it was an interesting experience for both of them.
Wow, that's you hit the nail on the head, because a lot of times we do try to take and, try to overcome other people's fears. And you just said that you're going to have to work that out. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times we come in and feel like, oh, I can heal that person. I can help that person. And, my man was going through all types of frustration because he wanted to enjoy himself, but his significant other was afraid. You know what I mean? So what do you do with that when another person has fear and you can't progress?
In the relationship, that's a whole. We have to sit down and figure out if the fear is going to keep us from moving closer to whatever goal that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, exactly.
So if that person has, there's two options here. You can leave the relationship altogether, or you can figure out how we're going to get past that fear in order to reach the goal.
Exactly.
Right? And sometimes is that you figure out a way around the fear in order to get to the goal, right?
Yeah.
But in any instance, you have to figure that out. You have to figure that out. And internally for yourself, you want to be able to figure that out.
Yeah, exactly. Because, the crazy thing is that if you don't deal with that fear can come in the form of insecurity. And you want to progress, but you keep sabotaging yourself or sabotaging that other person because of your insecurity. Like, that person is saying, hey, I need to make moves, so it's going to require me to be gone X amount of days, to make this thing happen. And so you have insecurities that are unresolved and fears of abandonment, fears of somebody cheating on you. And that may not even be the case with this person. He's just out here like, yo, I want to try to make this goal happen for us. But because of the fear and the insecurity, and then that brings in the lack of trust, now it's like, I know you're sleeping with so-and-so, and it's not even the case. So
not even the case.
And so it's like, I can't roll like this. I can't hold your hand and try to make this goal happen. I need for you to be with me on this. And you being with me on this means, hey, I need you to trust me. So I think it's a lot. It's definitely a lot. We might have to have another podcast just on trust and overcoming fears and insecurity. That might have to be a separate.
Well, there's so many things that we can cover when we're talking about relationships, and then making sure that we understand how to build a foundation, and then how to build upon that foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
In order to reach our goals. Like I said, at this point, if you are wanting to get in a relationship with someone or a marriage with someone because you want someone to love or you want someone to love you, and that is the main objective, that relationship is not going to play out well.
Exactly.
There has to be more. And, a lot of people say, well, we have to learn how to love people unconditionally.
I don't believe in that.
There's no such thing. There's no such thing.
Everything has conditions.
We would see if there's a difference between I would like something to be this way.
Yeah.
Versus this is the way that it is.
Yeah.
And so, you have to be able to work in that realm, even if you're trying to change something.
Yeah, exactly.
Some things can be changed, right?
Yeah.
You grow, you learn, we're fighting for justice, right?
Yeah.
So we're fighting for justice in these things are wrong. Okay. These things are wrong. Also, this is how it is now, right? So are you going to just stop doing everything altogether, or you're going to try to work within to make the change?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
These things can work together.
Exactly.
So when you're talking, like I said, when you're talking about relationships, everything is conditional, right?
Yeah.
Because, and this is how you know it's conditional. When you know for a fact that I can love you, but not at the expense of my mental health, my physical health, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
the goals that I want to reach.
Yeah.
Right? I can love you, right? But it's not going to be at the expense of myself.
Exactly.
So there's a condition on that, right?
I'm so glad. Oh my God. I got to give you some applause. I am so glad that you said that, because there are so many people that have sacrificed everything and still don't get the outcome. I'm serious. Sacrifice the peace, sacrifice self-value, sacrifice their worth, sacrifice their finances, sacrifice their convictions and religious beliefs, and still not get the outcome. I've done it myself, thinking that okay, it's going to turn out. And after you done sacrificed everything and still ain't got nothing to show for it in a relationship, still goes to hell and goes to pieces. Did it. Been there, got that, got the bracelet.
And why do you think that was? Like, you gave your all in the relationship. Why do you think that it didn't work out? And I'm not saying in a blaming matter for the other person. What do you feel was like the foundational issues within the relationship?
I think the foundational issues in the relationship were unresolved, and I think a lot of it was things that we were indoctrinated to do. Because I did see red flags, but I thought that I could just work past it. I just thought that I could just believe God, and some of the stuff that we got in church, was like, okay, you can do it. You just like Christ. Husbands, love your wife as Christ so loved the church and gave himself. So that means Jesus sacrificed himself. So I'm supposed to sacrifice myself. But here's the difference between Jesus and myself. Jesus rose on the third day. I died. And it took therapy to dig me back up and take the grave clothes off and roll away the stone and tell me, you ain't Jesus and you ain't Superman. It was a hard lesson. But the one thing that I realized is sometimes we develop a savior complex. You know, in a lot of stuff that I got, you know, I don't know if it was misinterpreted by myself or maybe it was just the counseling. But, you know, some of the stuff that I saw in counseling, everything was on me. No accountability, you know, to my spouse whatsoever. You know, if it was her insecurity, I had to deal with it. If it was something that I didn't like, I had to just, you know, suck it up. And just, oh, she liked that. But when it came to me, it was conditional. I was like, well, how come, you know, the Bible says, wives, you know, respect your husband. Well, you got to give her something to respect. I'm like, well, but you telling me I need to sacrifice unconditionally. And
you don't have to sacrifice, or you don't have to go online.
Exactly.
That's going back what you're saying with going back to the queen and the duties of being a queen, right?
Yeah. So
being able to respect your king and be able to have his back and not, you know, if that king is trying, being able to support those efforts.
Exactly. So
yeah, that's some good stuff.
I think the one thing that I've learned, and I mean, yeah, I love my Christian beliefs. But the one thing that I'm going to say is this: counseling in church is not the only counseling. You need to get yourself a good therapist. And if you do get counseling in church, please make sure that they give you not only biblical perspective, but real life perspective, and make sure that they certified. You know, because I think the one thing that I've seen is that pastors try to make everybody relationship like theirs. But the crazy thing is that every relationship can't be like the pastor and his wife, because you don't know what's in their marriage. You don't know what's in their house. What may be okay with the pastor may not be okay with you. So that's why I tell people, we can't, you know, as ministers, we can't cookie cut everybody the same way. And that's the one thing that I've seen in church. We try to cookie cut relationships. And if it ain't like ours, me and the first lady, then you ain't got nothing. I'm like, nah, man, everybody ain't supposed to be a clone. You know what I mean?
And that's interesting, because when you're talking about organized religion, that is what you're talking about. That there is, because there's a formula. Right? There's a formula of how everything is supposed to go and run, and this is the way it's supposed to be. And when anyone goes away from that formula and they're in the church, what do we say? Oh, you're not doing the right thing. You're not of God. Exactly. You're not right. You're walking out of the will of God. You know, they say all of these things to keep you in line, to keep you in you know, what the form is.
Yeah, conformity. You know what I mean? But see, I come from left field anyway, you know, and it's crazy because I'm like, God, I don't know what you got for me, but it seemed like, man, I'm just shooting down a whole lot of stuff that I see. You know, because I look at it and it's not bringing the life that we're supposed to have or we deserve to have. You know, if I'm supposed to be in Christ, if I am in Christ, then why isn't my life good? Because we associate Jesus Christ or associate the God kind of life as being a good life. Why is it that, you know, we have so many, you know, people that are falling off? Celebrity gospel couples falling off. Celebrity gospel couples, you know, in infidelity, caught in infidelity. Like, man, you got Devon Franklin and his wife. You got Pastor John Gray and his wife. You got Cora Jakes and her husband. And I'm like, it's so many people. I mean, Juanita Bynum and her husband. There's so many people out here that we try to emulate or want to be like and call them couple goals, and then they fall off and we fall off. And I'm like, man.
Well, that's what I will say, because we definitely know that the divorce rate is the same for religious couples or Christian couples, just as it is for lay people, right? Or regular folks.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Well, I will say this, because being a minister of education, yes, I went through I was very heavy in the Christian church, and I was, yes, fully indoctrinated in that world, right? Fully. Fully. So I understand that world. I understand what comes with it. And I will say this, because when I started my journey in 2008, I was married. And I started my journey on being a relationship coach when my marriage was failing. And I didn't understand. And I wanted to understand why this was happening, and why not only my marriage, but other people's marriages are failing as well. What is the formula? What is the right? And so within the church, and I've been to more than one church, trying to implement a marriage ministry and a singles ministry that will prepare Christians to be the Proverbs wife and the and the great husband, right? The leader.
Yeah.
But you have to have the backing of that whole community, the pastor down from the pastor of the church, the first lady of the church. You have to have that backing, because then it's not going to work. This is the way I see it. If your church does not have a singles ministry that is teaching on the principles of how to become a wife and a husband, right? And being able to mingle with other single people, right, within the faith, that you can partner with, right?
Yeah.
And then once they get partnered and married, being in a marriage ministry that helps them work through their issues, right, and keep that marriage alive, you're really doing your church a disservice.
Yeah. You're
doing your church a disservice. You're not helping those within your church to be successful at the principles that you're teaching them.
Exactly. And here's the thing. And this is why a lot of churches fail to put those programs together, because they want a person who's going to, come out of their own pocket with it, put it together, but then, the church is going to be running it. And a lot of people are like, oh, hell no. If y'all want this, you got to pony up the money. I'm not going to sit up here and give my time, my money, my energy, and you going to oversee it. You know what I mean? So, those are some of the things I'm glad you said about, the pastor, getting on the page, because I look at it like this. If you want that type of success and growth, this is what you're going to have to do. I look at it like this. You want people to sow into the ministry, you got to sow into the lives of people. And that's the God knows truth. If you want prosperity in your house, you're going to have to show the people what prosperity is. So you're going to have to teach them, not just the spiritual, but the natural. And a lot of times, churches just want it one way. They want to be able to get, but don't want to give. And if you
I think that's the whole issue in the Black church. We don't know.
Yeah.
And instead of bringing people in or actually learning, right? We're not doing it. Yeah. That's just if I was to say to you, hey Leon, I really want to learn how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
I really want to learn how to ride a bike. And you go, you can learn how to ride a bike. You can do anything you want to do. And I go, yeah. I want to learn how to ride a bike. I want to buy a bike, right? Buy a bike. I want to buy a bike. And then, and I say, but I got to learn how to ride a bike. And I want you to teach me how to ride a bike. And then you go, well, first you get on and Then you pedal, you balance yourself, you pedal, and you go. And I go, but I don't know how to ride a bike. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And I keep saying to you, I don't know how to ride a bike, but you telling me the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You can ride
I'm not going to learn how to ride a bike like that.
Exactly.
And then I'm going to buy a bike and I'm going to learn how to ride it on my own, but I'm going to be missing some things.
Yeah. You're going to need some training wheels.
But I'm going to be missing, I could be missing some things, and it's going to be harder for me to learn because I'm learning it on my own.
Exactly.
Instead of you coming alongside of me, holding the bike up,
yeah,
right? Teaching how to balance.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have those skills to teach me, right? Because your bike is wobbly. When you get on the bike, it's wobbly and it's going back and forth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know how to ride a bike properly, but you're trying to teach me how to ride a bike.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to get somebody.
And so the result is going to be the same. My bike riding is going to be wobbly because you taught me how to ride a bike and your bike riding is wobbly.
Yeah. So you only going to be what you taught. If I could break it down, like if I can take what you're saying, you're gonna be what you're taught. Unless
you say, you know what, I don't know how to ride a bike properly. I just learned, right? I got on the bike, I learned how to do it. I made mistakes on the way. I fell a whole bunch of times.
Yeah.
Pinned up my knees, trying to learn how to ride this bike.
Yeah.
And honestly, I could ride the bike better. So then I have to say, okay, you have to say, if you're teaching me, you have to say, okay, I'm going to go out and bring somebody in that knows how to ride the bike.
Yes.
And ride it the way that I want to ride it. Yeah. So then I can be better at teaching other people how to ride the bike.
Exactly. But see, here's the thing. Some ministers or pastors feel that they have to be the one that brings it out. I got to be the one to teach it. Or I'm less than because I don't know certain things. But I'm like, no, it's not that. It's you got to be willing to have security within yourself to know I'm not the best at this. This is not my strong suit, so I'm going to bring somebody in. And all that is showing is your humility and love for the people. That you want them to be better.
The smartest person in the room is the one that says, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
It's very simple. We only have a limited knowledge of the things that we do. Even as a relationship coach, there are things that I'm learning every day. Not only through study, and I've been doing this since 2008, not only through study, but my own relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And not just my romantic relationships, my relationships with other people.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? We're always growing. We're always, maturing and getting to the next level. That's the whole point. If you're going to partner with somebody, how do you want to grow mentally, spiritually? How do you want to grow? And if you cannot answer that for yourself, it's not time for you to partner. And I know a lot of people will get discouraged by that because they want to be loved and they want to be with someone. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But understanding why you want to be with somebody and what you're trying to accomplish has to be done before you get into a relationship.
It does.
And that's why relationships keep failing over and over and over again, because you're unclear about the direction that you're trying to go.
I got to give you some applause on that. That is truth. So Alasha, how can people follow you? You are doing so much work, and I see your platform is changing and everything like that, and it's taking a shift. So how can people follow you? Because I'm not going to lie, you are burning up these Facebook streets with your posts. You got people thinking. You got people challenging you on stuff, and it's challenging them in their thinking and in their relationships. How can people follow you?
And I want them to. I absolutely want them to challenge the thought process. and not think that I'm trying to, to go at them or prove them wrong. It has nothing to do with that. I'm literally asking you questions so that you can figure it out for yourself. But they can follow me, The Dating Mechanic, on social media. You got your Instagram, you got your Facebook. Please come and join the conversation, because this is where you're going to get your learning. This is where where you'll be able to start your foundation. You can ask questions, so that you can raise your relationship IQ, as we say. So come join us with it. Yeah, come join us. Happy to have you. Come on and join the conversation. The Dating Mechanic on Instagram and Facebook.
Wow, I like that. Let me give you some applause. So tell us about your book.
I have 3 books.
Yes.
35 date tips where you determine additional time and engagement with someone. It takes you through different ways that you can go out on dates and how you can conduct the dating process for successful dating. Then there's 7 key questions to ask on a first date. These questions are the most important questions that you can ask in order to figure out if you even want to go on a date with someone, right? And you should have some type of way of weeding out people that you want to date. And then there's Dear Future Spouse. Oh, that's my baby. Dear Future Spouse is taking singles on a journey of self-discovery and allowing them to understand who they are and what type of person that they would want to be in a relationship with, and what type of relationship that is good for them. Being able to take out self, right? And then be able to think about their partner and who they want to be in relationship with. Yeah, that's my baby right there.
Wow. So where can people get the books at?
They can go on Amazon and they can get all 3 books.
Okay. All right. Cool. Oh man, it is so great. Hey, Valentine's Day is coming up. You got anything popping off?
So for the month of February, right? We still have COVID going on and all those types of things, so I want to be careful in those areas. But for the month of February, I will be doing a single interview every night. So bringing singles on and asking them questions about who they want to have in their life. And it's going to be a very interesting time. You already know I don't ask the ordinary questions. So it's not going to be what's your favorite ice cream. We're going to really let others have a picture of who this single person is, right? So like one of the questions on my Facebook page is, you have magic soap. What does it wash away? Right?
Yeah, I remember that one.
That's like, people will say like, oh, fat. Oh, but then you have people who are like, man, if I had it, it would be pain. It would be trauma from childhood. It would be, all the misunderstandings, that I've had with my mom, or, people like can get really deep with it. So we're asking questions that get to the heart of it. They're not superficial questions, so that singles can get themselves out there. I understand it's a pandemic, and people are still afraid to go out on dates and those types of things. So it's another alternative to virtual and actually getting yourself out there and meeting people and getting noticed.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Oh, you are so, oh my God, you are so wonderful. Let me give you some applause. And the reason why I say this is because you are a builder. And that's the one thing that I so appreciate about you, because your vision is like so far out there. And what I mean by so far out there is like, you just figure out stuff. You figure out, hey, I can get these people together. I can figure out how this thing works, how this is supposed to flow. And that's the one thing that I appreciate about you. You are called the Dating Mechanic. but you are also Miss MacGyver because you can make something out of nothing and you can pretty much blow down with just a paper clip and a cotton ball.
I'm fixing relationships with some foil and
Exactly. So I'm like, yo, you are like the heart. I called you the heart whisperer, but now I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you the MacGyver because now you can unlock stuff. I'm telling you, you can start calling you Miss MacGyver.
I'll take it. I will take it, and I'm very appreciative of coming on your platform and being able to give singles hope, right? That there is a way to date and be in relationship and be successful, and you don't have to keep going through the heartaches and the heartbreaks, right? Let's stop the heartaches and the heartbreaks and start building these great relationships, these empires, these kingdoms, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's change it generationally.
I like that because, I mean, like we were talking even before we started, we were talking about power, and then you talking about empire, and I'm thinking about this show, and I'm like, that was a kingdom.
Oh yeah.
It was definitely
and the wonderful part about that is watching that program, Power, is that I'm always looking at things from a relational standpoint. Like everything I watch, when I people watch, all of that, I'm looking at the relationship dynamic. And the funny thing about that program, the main characters, Tasha and Ghost was trying to change the dynamic of the kingdom. He was trying to change the how they were conducting themselves. However, his queen did not want to follow suit. His queen was going in a different direction than he wanted to go, and she didn't understand what the king was trying to do. She was afraid of the changes, and so she went against him instead of being for him, right, and for the relationship, and for the kingdom, and for the good of everyone. And so we have to really be careful that we're not in these relationships and we say we're growing apart because we're not in line with the goals. If the goals change, that's fine, but we all have to be on the same page, right?
Yeah, exactly. We definitely need to be on the same page, and I'm glad that you broke that thing down with Power. I'm going to start binge watching that because I haven't seen it. They already on book 2, so I think I definitely need to be brought up to speed on that. So, Alasha,
like do it, and then we'll talk about it because it really is a great way to look at how relationships, fail because we're not on the same page.
Wow, that's you didn't said it. You done said it. You done definitely said it right there. So, hey, can you leave us with some words of wisdom? Because I love your philosophy, how you think, your perspective. Leave us with some words of wisdom.
Oh, wow. This is always funny. How somebody give us one word of advice, right?
Oh, no. You got the mic. You
have that feeling, right? Well, I mean, like I have, it's just so many things, right? I think that, if we stay with the kingdom and having that whole aspect of understanding why you're wanting to partner with someone and having a bigger goal than I want to be in love. I want the fairy tale. I want the, the magical dress and the party and the ring and I want to be able to say I have somebody on my arm or in my bed. Make the goal bigger. What are we trying to accomplish? If you want to be a power couple, what do we have power over, right?
Yeah.
What is it that you're trying to build, not only within your relationship, in your family structure with your children, but outside of yourself? What is your marriage? How is your marriage going to be a positive influence in your community?
Exactly.
Not only in your immediate community, but the community surrounding that.
Exactly.
Right? How are you going to impact them?
Yeah.
So I would, really just take the time to start understanding that and get the book, Dear Future Spouse, so you can start doing that.
Yes, yes. Let me give you some applause. I'm serious. I ain't gonna lie. We could probably talk about relationships for a whole week. I'm serious.
Oh, yeah.
I'm serious. We could definitely do that. But I want to say thank you for coming on. I want to say thank you for your perspective. And thank you that you are pivoting for the future, but also you understand the shift that is taking place. And even though people may come against you and try to call you, a pick-me or this or that, I love the fact that you are strong enough to stay in it, even though people are coming against you, and they the same ones that need your help. So I want to say I appreciate you.
I'm here for the people that that definitely want to progress and move further. And of course, you're always going to have the naysayers and those people that don't want to give up, right? They don't want to change. They don't want to change the dynamic of what's happening right now, but they have to realize that what they're doing is not working.
Exactly.
And when they realize that, they'll be like, "Oh, okay, I see what you're saying."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And then come on over. They can jump over the fence and then come on over there with us.
Exactly.
And join the conversation, right?
Exactly. And when you jump the fence, just say, "Hey, look, my mind was all messed up. Please forgive me."
That's right. That's right.
Exactly.
And we will welcome you with open arms.
Right, guys, that was Alasha Bennett of Dating Mechanics. I want you guys, you got to go get her books. And you definitely got to sign up and follow her on social media, because I'm telling you, she is in line with the women like I Am Shalakemia, Crimson Cure, Danica. I'm telling you, she's going to be one of them women. And she's going to be giving her perspective, and she's going to be calling women to task, because this thing has to change. And so if you're going to have a kingdom, you got to protect the king's focus. If you're going to be a queen, you have to understand the requirements of the kingdom as well as the queen and the king. You got to know what your requirements are, his requirements, and the kingdom's requirements. Because at the end of the day, it's about sustainability. It's about us being able to pass this to the next generation, to the next king, who's actually a prince right now, to the next, queen, who's going to be living in someone else's kingdom. And so we got to begin to, have that type of vision. We got to begin to have that type of life, because here it is. The husband is the son right now. The wife is the daughter right now. And if you want their success, you have to grow them to be visionaries. You have to grow them to a point to know that there is a burden as well as a glory that comes with being a wife, that comes with being a husband, being a king, and being a queen. So like I said, hey, listen to this episode, but also know what you want. Say what you want. Because, you can have any type of kingdom. And your kingdom can function any type of way. But you want the type of kingdom that will bring sustainability, that will bring honor, and that you can pass on to the next generation. So, guys, I love this interview today. I love every time me and Alasha get together, it's always fire. And so, guys, get her books, follow her on social media, but take the information, work it, go through it, because success is there. All right, guys, you be blessed, and I thank you for today.
Walk in the truth that makes you free every day. Follow Brother Leon on all social media outlets.